In this episode, we're joined by Jean-Bernard Boura, the visionary founder of Pen Aviation. From private jets to cutting-edge drones, JB's transforming aviation with a focus on innovation, safety and sustainability. Let's explore his journey and the future of flight. Welcome to AI to Z. Hosted by Airswift's data science Donny, we delve into artificial intelligence, health tech and more. Tune in and journey with us into the future.
Well, JB, welcome, sir, to the podcast. I can say I'm very excited to hear a bit more about this space and, what Pen Aviation is doing and essentially, how this space is transforming over the past few years.
Thank you very much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be with you guys and share a little bit of our experience that we are fortunate to have over the years.
Great. So why don't we jump into a bit about yourself, sir?
Yeah, sure. So I'm, first of all, I'm a French citizen that decided to come in Asia about 13 years ago for pure personal reasons. I wanted to educate my kids in a more international environment and get them ready to the rise of Asia. In that sense, I'm more like an immigrant than an expatriate, I would assume. From a professional perspective, I'm an aeronautical engineer. I have a Master of Science in Aeronautics. I've been doing a bit of flight tests, 15 years with Dassault Aviation, the Rafale and Falcon manufacturer, where I had the opportunity to create the Falcon operational support organization for the company. So as an engineer, I was in charge of the operational support of the Falcon fleet of aircraft worldwide. Myself and the team were also involved in the design of the new Falcons. We were in charge of the what we call the crew operational methodology. How do you use a two-pilot cockpit environment in a business jet operation for a Falcon? I was in charge of the training. And later I was detached as a pilot to fly with our customers. And as a result, I've been flying with one of our major Falcon operator called ARLC. And ARLC operates aircraft in Europe, in US, and I've helped them later to set up operation in Asia when I came to Asia. When I came to Asia, I've set up a company called Sapura Aero, which was the aviation branch of the group of companies Sapura, which I've been running for 3 years. And then later, I created in 2015 Pen Aviation. And we're going to have the opportunity to discuss about Pen Aviation a bit later, I guess. But that's my background. So in summary, engineering background, flying background, and business background, and company management background.
Jack of all trades, my friend. What better pilot than someone that knows how to work on the plane, fly the plane, and where you land, you can open up a business as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very important for the people we are talking to, whether on the private jet side or on the drone side, to that they know that they are talking to people with actual experience. I think it makes a whole difference.
Absolutely. And it's a perfect segue into, tell us a bit more about your most recent project, Pen Aviation.
We kickstarted the company in 2015 with the objective to grow private jet sales and private jet operation, in particular in partnership with this company I was flying with when I was at Dassault, called ARLC. That's something we still do. And today we brought under management a number of Falcon 2000 7X at X. And we literally helped ARLC become the biggest Falcon 7X at X operator in the world today. So together with the aircraft that we have brought under management in Asia and the aircraft they already had, is 22 aircraft of the same Falcon 7X and 8X type. Later on, into 2016, 2017, we started to look into drones. We started as a broker, to be honest, and to be fully transparent, we failed. We couldn't find the right product for our customers, or we were too far away from our safety objectives. And we've been always very cautious with safety. So after a while, we said, if we can't find the right product, we're going to do it ourselves, knowing that we are coming from private jet operation and private jet design. So we started to do this, and we soon realized that if we wanted the product to be successful, we had to have certified product. That was the first step, because without certification, you can't operate commercially. You may not even be able to insure the drone in the first place. So that was one of the design criteria. But we also realized that it wasn't enough to ensure profitable operation for our customers. And when I say that is because we need to realize that if we take the manned aircraft industry, on the manned aircraft industry, you have about 12, 15 reputable OEMs. You have the Boeings, the Airbus, the Embraer, Cessna, Falcon, Gulfstream, Bombardier, etc., etc. They have basically 12, 15 very strong, reputable OEMs. And these OEMs actually deliver product to more than 5,000 airlines in the world today, registered with ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization. If you do the comparison with the drone industry, today you have more than 2,000 drone manufacturers in the world, but you don't have drone airlines. So you have maybe one aircraft drone company that operates a large number of drones, each drone flying multiple flights per day over a long period during the day. And so somewhere there's a gap. You can't have a market where you have so many suppliers and such a little number of big operators.
Of course.
So we started to look into this, and we tried to understand where the gap was coming from. And we find out that the reason why you had such a little number of operators is because the drone operation was still not a very scalable and profitable business. It's one thing to operate 1, 2, 3 drones with 2 or 3 persons. You may make it work, you may break even, make a bit of money, but it's not scalable. And unfortunately, the amount of money and profit, but money essentially you make with an aircraft is still proportionate to the weight. So the drone being still a small aircraft compared to a Boeing 747, for instance, or an Airbus A380, the amount of money you can make with the drone is still relatively small. But you because of compliance, because of safety, because of all this, you still have a fixed layer of fixed costs that you have to absorb. And the opportunity then to make profit is very much challenged if you don't operate on a volume basis. After we realized that, we said, what can we do to fix this problem? And we looked into the automation of the operation. Because once you decrease the cost of operation of the drone because you automate the flight itself, most of your costs then becomes human cost. It's people to do the flight planning, to do the maintenance, to operate the drone, to comply with the regulatory requirements that are applicable to you, and all this translates into human cost at the end of the day. So we said, if we want to make sure that the operation can be profitable, we have to automate the flight, but we also have to automate the whole operation of the drone. That's how we started to work both on the drone and on the automation platform. So you need to have a drone on one side that is able to be certified so that we can operate commercially. It's a requirement, but it's not enough. You also need to work on the business side, which ensure that your operation costs above and beyond the drone itself are as low as possible, so that at the end we can make a profit as an operator. And this is how we started to develop our own digital platform to automate our drone operation called DigiMind. And this is how we started, in a sense, our journey in the drone industry.
Oh, fantastic.
By working both on the hardware and the software.
It's a magical combo, isn't it?
It's an interesting combination. Well, there are a lot of challenges, and it's not an easy journey, because if it was easy, people would have done it before. But I think that's mostly the only one way to ensure for our end users and customers that they can get a service which is delivered faster at a lower cost and lower carbon footprint. You need to be able to combine the three elements. And usually when you try to optimize operation, you very interesting optimize the aerodynamics, the propulsion, everything, and you end up also optimizing the carbon footprint. So it goes together, actually.
Oh, fantastic. And I saw recently you've won some awards as well.
Yes, well, we've been lucky to be awarded by different entities. The last one is the Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Commerce of France in Malaysia, which gave us 2 awards for entrepreneurship and innovation. We have had awards in the past from other organizations as well for innovation and entrepreneurship. So we are lucky to have good people looking over us, and appreciating what we are doing and wanting to support us. So yes, we're lucky.
Well, congratulations to that, and
Thank you.
many more to come, I hope.
Yeah.
Now, when we first caught up, there was, something that we spoke about that you mentioned that I thought was quite interesting. COVID really brought about a big shift within this space, and I would love for you to, dive a little bit deep into that, and how that kind of jump started, these next few years for yourself and Pen Aviation.
Yeah, COVID was a very interesting time because it was a time full of challenges and opportunities at the same time. And the best way I can illustrate that is, so when in Malaysia, when we had the first COVID onset, we ended up being in a full lockdown. So we couldn't leave the house. Everybody was locked down in everybody's house. So we couldn't move. And we soon realized that was going to impact very negatively our private jet operation, because to sell private jet, you need to meet people, and we couldn't move. So and at that time, we were already spending about 5-10% of the company resources on the drone. So what we did is overnight, we said, we're going to switch to 90% of our time and resources to drones, literally overnight. This is how we started to massively invest into drone. And so the COVID period has been translated into a very strong acceleration of our growth into the drone industry because of COVID. We also realized that, and that was part of the decision, we realized that if you could meet certain criteria in terms of performance, particularly the ability to carry heavy load over long distances or longer endurances, the drone was interesting because you don't carry people. As a result, you don't spread viruses.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very good way to ensure logistic continuity without spreading any risks and any viruses. And we said, there may be something to be done here. But obviously, at that time, the drone we were looking at, they were still quite small. They didn't have heavy payload capabilities. So it was a push for us to say, yes, we understand we need to have certification, we need to have good performance, we need to automate the operation, but we also need the ability to transport heavy payload. Now, at the same time, we realized that the drone is still one step in the overall logistic chain. And COVID highlighted that, in a way, the logistic industry was still very much antiquated. So you have a lot of things that are manually done. Planning the journey of airway bill, parcels, etc. All this is still done very much manually in a lot of companies. So we also realized that part of the automation, if we want to improve the overall logistic chain, you need to work on the automation of the logistic chain itself. That was not our trade, our expertise, but we worked with people that have this particular expertise. And the idea is to really integrate the logistic optimization platform that they develop into Digimine, so that when it comes to a trip, whether for the first mile, last mile, or middle miles, that uses a drone, the planning of the drone itself is fully automated and done in real time as we plan the journey of the airway bill or the parcel itself. And I think this is quite unique. And this is also a testimony of how we can further bring the cost down for certain type of operators. Here we're talking about logistic operators. We also have other applications of the drone for intelligence, surveillance, recognition, search and rescue, etc. But when it comes to logistics, and logistics is one of the applications that requires multiple flight per day per drone. This is where you need to automate everything so that you don't have all of a sudden an increase in your human cost, and therefore you burn part of your potential profits in your business.
Absolutely. And for those of us that I guess don't come from an aviation background, there was something that you said previously that really resonated with me. If I'm not mistaken, that we've been using drones for much longer than we realize. I think it was one of the world wars that you were telling me that we've been using drones since.
So we retrieved some very old pictures from old pictures. You can imagine.
Oh yeah, black and white, grainy.
Yes, exactly. From the First World War. And this is when the first drone has been actually invented. When I say drone, is unmanned vehicle. So it didn't fly for long, but the concept of having no one on board was actually already invented and tested during the First World War. So the drone concept is not something new. What is new is the ability to use it on a scale basis in a safe environment and an approved environment, and in a way that is very much cost conscious and environmental conscious. One of the very, I think, fundamental principle is of the success of the drone is also the ability to take off vertically and land vertically. So having a drone, meaning having an unmanned, uncrewed system, is one thing. For certain type of application, it helps you do things that are either safer for people or at a lower cost. But from a business perspective, what is really, really important is the ability to take off and land vertically, because then you don't need a runway anymore. You don't need very large pieces of infrastructure that are that takes a lot of space, that are very heavy in terms of capex, that are expensive to maintain, and therefore you can't have as many as you wish.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you can land within 10 meters square of 10 meters by 10 meters, then you can literally have them almost everywhere. Not everywhere, but you can have a way higher number of these places. We call them vertiports, but we can have a way higher number of vertiports than you can have airports, traditional airport. And this brings your business closer to the customers.
Yeah, the one thing about airports is they're always so far away.
Exactly, they are far away. That takes a lot of space, so it's difficult to integrate into urban areas or close to the business place. It could be a warehouse. It could be a industrial area. It's difficult to do, and it's also difficult to replicate in a number of places. And very good example is Indonesia. You have 17,000 islands in Indonesia. a good 40% of them have people living on the island. But you're not going to have 9,000 airports. It's not going to happen. And you still need to transport at least goods between the shore and the islands. If you have a very small piece of infrastructure and a cheap way to transport goods with a drone, then you may have a business.
Absolutely. And there's a bunch of themes that you mentioned actually, which was quite interesting. You keep on talking about sustainability, safety, cost. Those seem to be quite overarching themes. And I would love for you to maybe dive a little bit deeper into those.
The combination of the three altogether is what makes the challenge and the interest. Finding, as we say in the company, we don't design the best system in the world, but we try to find the best compromise between the various components of the system used for drone operation. We realized that first of all, it's interesting to have drones that are able to carry heavy load, and therefore you need to have a certain critical size of the drone.
Of course.
But when the drone becomes too big, what you save is actually the systems to transport the pilot and to transport the passengers. But when it becomes too big, these savings are no longer very interesting.
Tipping point. Yeah, of course.
Yes, exactly. So you have a kind of optimum point. If you are too small, you don't reach the critical mass, the critical size that allows you to operate on a volume basis. But if you are too big, you don't have the cost saving that you expect compared to a manned system. And therefore you become not so attractive. So first you need to have the right size of the drone for that to be interesting from both a mission perspective and a cost perspective. Now, once you have found this, then you need to tweak your design so that you optimize the energy consumption. And we had to deal with a lot of myths, I must say, in terms of energy consumption, because when we started, everybody was extremely excited with the electrification of power plant systems and so on. But the reality is, depending on how electricity is produced, you may or may not reduce the carbon footprint compared to a system that uses fossil energy. In certain countries in Asia, for instance, we noticed that most of the electricity production may come from charcoal, with power stations that are way older than the design of our drone, and with an energy ratio that is lower than the ratio we have on our more modern system.
Wow.
So we realized that when you look at the whole A to Z carbon footprint, even though we would use fossil energy, we still reduce the carbon footprint compared to electrical system. We also find out that we haven't reached the point where you have a energy density or power density that allows you to carry the same quantity and load of commercial payload over the same distances. And one of our drones, the Pen 55V, looks like a helicopter. It's 55 kg maximum takeoff weight. So if you combine the weight of the empty drone plus the fuel plus the commercial payload, altogether 55 kg, the weight of a human, basically. But if we were to, and with this 55 kg of payload, of maximum takeoff weight, we can transport about 15 kg payload. Now, to transport this 15 kg payload over 2.5 hours of endurance, if we were to use batteries, the size of the battery and the weight of the battery is bigger than the drone itself today.
Yeah.
So, of course, when we have bigger drone, then it means that your aerodynamic is, your drag is higher, so you consume more power, etc., etc. You go into a very vicious loop,
of course,
which is difficult to control from a design perspective. And this translates into more energy consumption. And actually, higher carbon footprint. So once again, the, the, I think that the interest is to find the right compromise between new technology and cost and mission performance. And for this, you need a bit of experience. And this is where the experience of our experience in aviation at Pen Aviation can help make a difference, I believe.
Absolutely. And it does seem that, I don't know if they have invented it yet, but solar power, I think, is definitely something you're probably experimenting with. Solar power propeller might be the next generation, my friend.
Well, we do look at all sorts of power generation, solar generation, hydrogen, batteries. Each of them have their plus and minus, their pros and cons. The challenge with solar generation is that you need massive surface, available surface to have the cells so that you can generate the amount of energy you need for your mission. I'm not for our particular case and user cases, considering the level of the technology, the solar panel technology today, is not the best option. But if the technology improves, it could become an option for sure. But in the very short, not now.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because that's exactly where I was headed next. We all seen the movies, right? That, unmanned, aircraft is carrying passengers in a skyscraper kind of scenario, and, everybody's shooting off like the Jetsons. Do you think, the next 5-10 years we'll get there? Where do you see the future heading? And, you could potentially, go in a few different directions, I'm sure.
It's a very good question. And to be honest, it's a bit of a challenge, not so much from a technology perspective, but more from a societal perspective, from a society perspective. Are we able to design a system that do not have anyone to control the drone in normal or abnormal situation? The answer is most probably yes. We already have a very high level of automation in our systems, and other players have also a high system automation as well. Now, to go from high level automation to full autonomy, there is a gap. And this gap has two challenges. The first one is you need to design systems that if they fail, they auto-correct themselves automatically. And this is how we would define autonomous system. Now, the challenge, even though from a technology standpoint, we may have systems able or capable of doing that, the main challenge is that from a regulatory perspective, you still need every regulation in the world. They need to identify, if I may say, who is going to go to jail if something screws up.
Of course.
And you put a person in jail. You don't put a computer in jail.
Of course.
So what I mean is it's a bit of a joke, but what I mean is that the liability aspect of a full autonomous system is not an easy thing to deal with from a regulatory and legal perspective. And this will take a bit of time to find the right wording and the right balance in everybody's or every country's regulatory system. So that's the first challenge. The other challenge, which is a society's challenge, is as a person, as a passenger, would you accept to fly in a plane where the person that you give the trust or you place the trust into, which is the pilot today, if no pilot is there, implicitly you say no pilot would trust the system enough to be there. There's always a bit of this thought in people's mind. Don't forget, 70% of passengers are scared of flying. Okay, so the psychological effect of the flight has to be taken into account. And it's not I don't feel the society is ready for this paradigm shift today. The question is, will the new generation, which is very used to digital, to automation, etc., will they be ready in 5, 10 years? Possibly, but I think it's going to take a bit of time. And I believe that this is where the drone industry has a huge opportunity to play, because with the drone, maybe there will be drone flying people, but waiting for that time to happen, you can still carry goods, parcels, you can do logistics, you can do mapping, surveying, you can do a lot of things with a drone that do not carry people and still offer a decent service. And when you do this, you actually collect, you log hours of experience, and then you log credibility. And then you can demonstrate to everybody, regulators, society, that you have a system that you can trust. But all this takes time. So let's wait a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was very interesting, just someone that was, just listening to what you're saying and putting the pieces together a little bit. It does sound like it is about, focusing on the low-hanging fruit, the areas that I guess don't have that, easy application as far as, the buy-in. There's no one's life at stake. Worst case scenario is just like shipping something across the globe. Some containers fall off ships. There is that, room for error that is almost planned for, essentially, where if that happens, it, is a really good first domino in regards to getting that, mindset changed in regards to maybe we could carry people. Maybe we might find out, which I hope we do, that drones are, able to, do more success or have more goods transported at a higher rate than shipping across the globe. Is it about, creating almost like a daisy chain where you're able to make these hubs that are able to circumnavigate and, don't take months and months at a time to go across the ocean? There's a lot of experimentation, but I'm quite excited to see, where the space goes. Just in this session, I've learned, much more than I ever would have known. When I think drone, I think, the one that's flying over at concerts, or you're seeing in Asia now where they have those, firework kind of displays that are all being run by drones, essentially. But there are, just like technology, AI, data, all these fun, buzzwords, it is touching everywhere, and it can really make a huge, amount of change in the quality of life. And to change the mindset, that might be the first drop in the bucket that we need.
Yeah, and well, you are absolutely right. And when we were talking about the society change that needs to happen, it's not only for those flying, the uncrewed or unmanned aircraft, is also for the people on the ground. There was recently, I think that was last year in Australia. Australia has been one of the first countries to adopt drone technology for delivery services. They have huge experience, and it's quite interesting to see that those that started this journey are now shutting some of their businesses because they are safe, they are approved, they can be profitable. But when you ask a person, would you like to have your Starbucks coffee delivered on your doorstep in a few minutes? Everybody says yes. But if you ask the question, would you accept that I delivers your neighbor's coffee on his doorstep while flying over your house? Then nobody is willing to accept that. And the society acceptance is also from an overall pollution perspective, which is the visual pollution and the noise pollution. It's not only the carbon footprint pollution. It's from an overall, a more holistic approach. And if you want to integrate drone in societies, in urban areas and so on, we, drone manufacturers, regulators, all stakeholders will have to deal with deal with a system that reduces the visual and the noise pollution as well. And it's not easy at the moment. In our case, for instance, in Pen Aviation, we decided to build drones that cannot be seen, cannot be heard, because they fly high enough so that you can't hear them, you can't see them. it's one way to deal with these challenges. It poses other challenges. How do you integrate control airspace, etc., etc., etc. But at least from a society acceptance point of view, this is how we dealt with that. It's not the only solution, but I'm sure there will be interesting design from both a drone perspective, but from an urban areas perspective, from an architecture perspective, also to invent. There will be an interesting time ahead of us.
Oh yeah, and from a talent perspective, one of the exciting bits that I hear is, of course, a mix of technology, creating applications and internal systems that are synced and able to adapt and overcome a variety of different scenarios. I'm curious to hear how you see the space transforming from a talent perspective. You can't really find someone that's been programming drones on a job street, for example, in Malaysia. How do you find this this space transforming, and what advice would you have for professionals that are interested in this domain as well?
So there are many aspects here. The first one is from a design perspective. The design of a drone is a design of a number of components, and which all comes back to structural engineering, aerodynamics, electronics, IT, etc. So all these individual set of expertise are expertise we can find in Malaysia, with the exception of a few of them. So, for instance, avionics design, or the engineer is able to design certified avionics is not something that is easy to find in Malaysia. Certification of aircraft design with actual experience in aircraft design is not something that you find easily in Malaysia as well. So we had to be innovative as well on that side. So find ways to identify Malaysian living abroad in companies that can give them this expertise, but willing to come back in their native countries. So that's something we've been doing. Another way to do that is to have partnership with universities where we can take Malaysian students at a certain level, MBA for instance, and then send them for PhD abroad on research topic from Pen Aviation, but with this, on disciplines and topics that are useful for both us and the country. And then after a while, once they are trained, we bring them back, and we can either hire them and allocate portion of the time for teaching purposes, or they come back to the university where they're coming from, and we do a project together. So that's something that we had to put in place as well, which is quite, I think, innovative as well. So that's one way to create the pool of talent that you need for such project. Innovation needs to be steered, and you need to drive innovation. And I think that the core team we have in Pen Aviation, because of their experience in aviation, is what make the design a bit different and a bit specific as well. We design based on specification. So if the specs are innovative themselves, then the design is innovative. So I think what makes us different is also the management team we have in Pen Aviation. That's how we manage to both drive innovation and attract talents.
Of course, culture always wins. People want to be around people they want to be like. I've been in recruitment for almost 9 years now. And one thing that has come up more times than anything is company culture. What is the leader like? Who's driving the ship? And, what are some of their main goals? But it's also, something that you point out, which is very correct, especially in a smaller organization. It is about finding potential in someone. They might have, like you said, there's a few different verticals that candidates or a potential pool of candidates can be within, but also, speaking to them, understanding their goals and their wants, and maybe putting them in a situation that they would have loved to have been in, but never would have found if they didn't speak to, you or your management team and, drive them down that path. exciting things like innovation and being the first of your kind don't come with some headaches and some lessons learned. But if you don't try, you have no ability to fail, and most importantly, you have no ability to succeed. And that is quite exciting to hear, especially from someone of your caliber, and most importantly, doing something that not many have done. Try to commercialize drones and pivoted so quick. It's quite an exciting journey. And I must say, JB, I'm very excited to have you on today and learn so much more about the space and domain. And I look forward to the future and what it holds. And I don't know. I think I might be one of the ones that might volunteer. I don't know, mate.
You're more than welcome. Anytime.
Thanks for joining us on the AI to Z podcast with Data Science Donny. If you found value in today's episode, consider following for more insightful STEM discussions. We'll be back with another deep dive. Until then.